Close your eyes, let the world outside fade away like a distant shore receding from a gently drifting boat. Let the sounds of your day soften into a muted hum, and then into silence. There is only the sound of my voice, a soft thread of silver moonlight to guide you on a journey. A journey not across land or sea, but through time itself, back to a world lit by oil lamps and scented with frankincense and old parchment. A world where wisdom was not found in hurried glances at glowing screens, but in the slow, patient turning of a page, in the shared silence between two souls, and in the vast, star-dusted canopy of the desert sky. Breathe in, slowly and deeply, and as you breathe out, let go. Let go of the lists, the worries, the plans. Let them dissolve like sugar in warm tea. We are traveling to the 13th century, to the ancient city of Balkh, in a land that would one day be called Afghanistan. Imagine the air, crisp and cool, carrying the scent of baked bread from a communal oven, the sweet perfume of jasmine climbing a sun-baked wall, and the faint, earthy smell of the dust of ages. In this city of scholars and poets, a city known as the mother of cities, a child was born. His name was Jalaluddin, which means the majesty of faith. We know him as Rumi. From his earliest days there was a stillness about him, a depth in his dark eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of old men. While other children chased hoops in the cobbled alleyways, Jalaluddin would often be found in the cool, quiet courtyard of his father's madrasa, his small fingers tracing the intricate calligraphy in a heavy, leather-bound book. His father, Bahauddin Walad, was a renowned theologian and mystic, a man known as the Sultan of the Scholars. He saw the light in his son, the unquenchable thirst for knowledge, and he nurtured it with stories of the prophets, with lessons in law and theology, and with the secret whispers of the mystics, who spoke of a love that transcended all earthly understanding. But the world outside their peaceful courtyard was turning. Far to the east, the winds of change were gathering into a fearsome storm. The armies of Genghis Khan were sweeping across Asia, a tide of destruction that left cities as smoldering ruins. Bahauddin, guided by a dream, a premonition, knew they could not stay. And so, when Jalaluddin was just a boy, his family packed their most precious belongings, not gold or jewels, but books, scrolls filled with the accumulated wisdom of generations, and they began a long, slow journey westward. Imagine this journey not as a frantic escape, but as a deep, winding pilgrimage. Picture the slow, rhythmic sway of the camels, their bells a soft, hypnotic chime against the vast silence of the landscape. They traveled through Nishapur, where the young Rumi met the legendary poet Attar, an old man with eyes like embers. Attar saw the fire in the boy's soul and gave him a copy of his own epic poem, The Conference of the Birds, a book about the soul's journey to find God. He looked at the boy and then at his father and said, "This son of yours will soon be setting fire to the lovers of God in this world." The journey continued, a slow unspooling of years and miles. They passed through Baghdad, the heart of the Islamic world, and made the great pilgrimage to Mecca, their feet treading the same sacred ground as countless prophets and saints before them. Finally, after years of wandering, they were invited to settle in the city of Konya, in the heart of Anatolia, what is now modern-day Turkey. Konya was a jewel of a city, a haven of peace and learning under the benevolent rule of the Seljuk Sultanate. Here, Jalaluddin's father was given a prestigious position, and here the young man's life took root. He grew from a thoughtful boy into a brilliant young man. He married, had children, and when his father passed from this world, Jalaluddin, still in his 20s, stepped into his place. He became the city's most respected religious scholar, a professor of jurisprudence, a preacher who could hold thousands spellbound with his eloquence and profound knowledge of the holy texts. Picture him now, in the prime of his life. See him in the grand mosque of Konya, his robes immaculate, his turban wound with perfect precision. His voice is calm, measured, and clear, a river of logic and learning, explaining the finer points of religious law, guiding his students through the intricate labyrinth of theology. He is a pillar of the community, a man of immense dignity and intellectual power. His days are ordered, predictable, a calm and placid lake of scholarship. He teaches, he studies, he writes, he prays. He is admired, respected, and content. His life is a beautifully constructed edifice of knowledge, built brick by careful brick. But deep within this serene lake, in the silent, unseen depths, a powerful current was waiting, a yearning he could not name. Sometimes, late at night, after the students had gone and the last lamp was extinguished, he would sit alone in his library, surrounded by the silent company of his thousands of books. He would look out the window at the moon, a perfect silver coin in the velvet blackness, and feel a pang of longing so vast and so deep it felt like an ache in his very soul. He had all the answers the books could give, yet he felt a question burning within him, a question without words. He was a master of the map, but he had not yet traveled to the territory it described. He knew the name of the ocean, but he had not yet tasted its salt. The stage was set. The scholar was at the peak of his intellectual prowess. The city of Konya was at peace, and the universe, in its infinite and mysterious wisdom, was preparing to send a catalyst, a spark, that would set the world of Jalaluddin Rumi ablaze and transform him from a respected scholar into a volcano of divine love and poetry. The man was coming, the sun was about to rise, and his name was Shams of Tabriz. Settle deeper now into your rest. Let your body grow heavy and soft. We are still in Konya, a city of turquoise domes and bustling markets. The year is 1244. The air is filled with the usual sounds, the coppersmith's hammer ringing in a steady rhythm, the merchant's call, the gentle laughter of children. For everyone in Konya, it is an ordinary day. For Jalaluddin Rumi, it is the day his life would be cleaved in two, the time before Shams and the time after. Shams of Tabrizi was not like other men. He was a wanderer, a dervish, a spiritual seeker of ferocious intensity. He was older than Rumi, his face weathered by the sun and the wind of 1,000 roads, his eyes holding a fire that seemed to burn through all pretense, all ceremony, all intellectual vanity. He was not a scholar who collected knowledge. He was a diver who plunged into the ocean of being itself. He had traveled the length and breadth of the Middle East, not in search of a teacher, but in search of a companion, a soul who could withstand the intensity of his spiritual fire, a mirror in which he could see the face of God. In his prayers he had asked God, "Show me one of your hidden friends," and a voice in his heart had guided him to Konya and to Rumi. Imagine the scene of their meeting. It is not recorded in any single definitive way, but the legends paint a picture of beautiful, symbolic power. In one telling, Rumi is riding his mule home from the madrasa, surrounded by an entourage of adoring students. He is the very picture of scholarly authority. Suddenly, a wild-looking man in a coarse black felt robe steps out from the crowd and seizes the bridle of his mule. The students move to push the stranger away, but Rumi holds up a hand, his gaze locked with the piercing eyes of the dervish. The man, Shams, asks a question. Not a question of law or theology, but a question designed to shatter the foundations of bookish knowledge. He asks, who was greater, the Prophet Muhammad or the mystic Bayezid Bastami? Rumi is taken aback. It is a shocking, almost heretical question. The Prophet is, without question, the pinnacle of creation. He answers calmly, the Prophet Muhammad was immeasurably greater, of course. Then why, Shams presses, his voice like flint striking steel, did the Prophet say to God, "We have not known you as you should be known," while Bayezid, in a state of ecstasy, cried out, "Glory to me! How great is my majesty! I am the Sultan?" The crowd gasps. The question hangs in the air, a challenge to everything Rumi has ever known. His students see only blasphemy. But Rumi, the great scholar, sees the deep mystical paradox. His mind, trained in the finest points of logic, races for an answer. And then, the answer comes not from his mind, but from a deeper place, a place of intuitive knowing that has lain dormant within him. He replies, Bayezid's thirst was quenched by a single sip of the divine ocean, and he proclaimed his fullness. The Prophet's capacity, however, was infinite. His thirst was never quenched. For him, each new revelation only revealed a vaster ocean yet to be known. He was always in a state of thirsting, always moving deeper into the mystery. At this answer, a shock of recognition passes between the two men. It is said that Shams let out a cry and fell to the ground in a faint. Rumi dismounted his mule and cradled the stranger's head. In that moment, the scholar and the mystic, the moon and the sun, recognized each other. It was not a meeting of two minds, but the collision of two galaxies. In another, perhaps more potent version of the tale, Shams finds Rumi in his magnificent library, seated beside a fountain, a stack of precious, hand-copied manuscripts at his side. Shams walks in, unannounced, and gestures to the books. "What are these?" he asks. Rumi, slightly annoyed by the intrusion, replies, "This is the said and the sayer, something you would not understand. It is the dry knowledge of theologians and scholars." Without another word, Shams reaches down, gathers the priceless books, the fruit of a lifetime of study, and throws them into the fountain. Rumi's students cry out in horror. Rumi himself is stunned into silence. These books are his life, his identity. But then Shams reaches into the water and pulls the books out, one by one, and they are perfectly dry. Not a single drop of water clings to the pages. Not a single letter is smudged. Rumi is utterly bewildered. "What is this miracle?" he stammers. And Shams looks at him, his fiery eyes softening with a deep compassion, and says, "This is the state and the tasting, something you would not understand." He is speaking of direct, unmediated experience, the taste of the honey, not the description of its sweetness. In that moment, Rumi's world of books and theories, of said and sayer, crumbled into dust. He saw that he had been living in a palace made of words, while this strange dervish had come from the living garden itself. He looked at Shams, and he did not see a madman or a heretic. He saw a doorway to the reality he had only ever read about. He took Shams by the hand and led him to his home, and for the next 40 days the great scholar Jalaluddin Rumi disappeared from the world. He secluded himself with this son from Tabriz. The lecture halls of Konya fell silent. The students waited, confused, and then resentful. What could this unkempt wanderer possibly teach their master, the Sultan of Scholars? Inside the room, a universe was being remade. It was not a process of teaching and learning in the traditional sense. It was a a deep spiritual communion. They did not just talk. They breathed the same air. They shared the same silence. Shams was not a teacher who imparted information. He was a mirror, a ruthless, perfect mirror that stripped away everything in Rumi that was not essential, that was not pure love. He challenged Rumi's reliance on the intellect. "Knowledge that takes you not beyond yourself," he would say, "is far worse than ignorance." He questioned his attachment to his reputation, to the adoration of his students. He was like a fierce wind blowing through the carefully ordered rooms of Rumi's soul, knocking over the furniture of his ego, shattering the windows of his certainty, and letting the wild, untamed air of the divine rush in. Day after day, night after night, they sat together, sometimes in silence that was more profound than any words, sometimes in conversation that soared to the highest heavens and plunged into the deepest mysteries of the human heart. Shams spoke of love not as a sentiment, but as a fire that consumes the self. He spoke of God not as a distant king to be obeyed, but as the beloved, an intimate presence closer than one's own breath. Rumi, the great scholar, became a humble student. He felt everything he had built his life upon dissolving. It was terrifying. It was painful. It was like a seed cracking open in the dark earth. But from that cracking, something new and green and alive was beginning to push its way towards the sun. He was learning to move from his head to his heart. The library of his mind was being consumed by the fire of love, and from its ashes, a garden was beginning to grow. During this time, the first sparks of poetry began to fly. Verses would come to Rumi, unbidden, like migrating birds arriving from a distant, unknown land. He would speak them aloud, and Shams would listen, his eyes alight, recognizing the sound of the beloved's voice speaking through his friend. Rumi was being unmade and remade. The placid lake was becoming a churning ocean. The carefully constructed dam of the intellect was breaking, and the boundless waters of the heart were being set free. The world outside could not understand. They saw their revered teacher abandoning his duties, mesmerized by a strange charlatan. Murmurs of jealousy and anger began to ripple through the city, but inside that small room a spiritual alchemy of unparalleled magnitude was taking place. The scholar was dying, and the poet, the lover, the mystic was being born. Breathe now and let this transformation seep into your own being. Feel the gentle cracking of old certainties, making way for a deeper knowing. The journey is just beginning. The sun has risen, and its light is changing everything. Let the quiet of the night deepen around you. Imagine yourself in that small, secluded room in Konya. The only light comes from a single flickering oil lamp, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The air is thick with the scent of old wood, warm wool, and the shared breath of two souls in deep communion. Outside, the city sleeps, but here, a world is awake. The transformation of Jalaluddin was not a gentle, seamless process. It was a profound upheaval, a spiritual earthquake that shook the very foundations of his being. For 40 days, which stretched into months, Rumi and Shams were inseparable. Rumi neglected his teaching, his family, his public duties. He who had been the center of Konya's intellectual life now had a new center, a new sun around which his entire existence revolved. And that sun was Shams. His students, who had once hung on his every word, now stood outside his door, bewildered and resentful. They would whisper amongst themselves in the courtyards of the madrasa, "Who is this wild man who has bewitched our master? He has cast a spell on him. He is leading him astray from the path of righteousness." Their love for Rumi was possessive. They had seen him as their property, a fountain of knowledge from which only they should drink. Now this stranger had come and claimed the fountain for himself. Even Rumi's own family, including his son, Sultan Walad, felt the sting of this new, all-consuming friendship. They missed the husband, the father, the public figure. They could not comprehend the nature of the bond that held the two men together. It was a love that transcended all familiar categories. It was not merely friendship. It was the recognition of the divine in the face of the other. As Rumi would later write, "What is the soul? I am that. What is the heart? I am that. What is the beloved? I am that. I have seen the two worlds as one." In Shams, Rumi saw the beloved he had been searching for his entire life. And in Rumi, Shams found the perfect vessel, the soul vast enough to receive the torrential downpour of his spiritual wisdom. Shams was the sun, and Rumi was the moon that perfectly reflected its light. But the world, with its small jealousies and its fear of the unknown, could not tolerate such a light. The whispers against Shams grew louder, turning from murmurs into open threats. The atmosphere in Konya became heavy with malice. Shams, who had lived his life as a free wanderer, felt the walls of this resentment closing in on him. He knew that his presence, which had been the catalyst for Rumi's awakening, was now becoming an obstacle, a source of pain and conflict for his beloved friend. One evening, as the last call to prayer faded into the twilight, Shams looked at Rumi with an infinite sadness in his eyes. "The beloved," he said softly, "sometimes separates two friends so that their longing may increase, so that the wine of their love may have time to ferment and grow more potent." Rumi did not want to understand his words, but his heart knew their meaning. And then, one morning, Rumi awoke to a silence that was different. It was not the peaceful silence of communion, it was the hollow, aching silence of absence. Shams was gone. He had slipped away in the night without a word of farewell, disappearing back into the vast, anonymous world from which he had come. The discovery of Shams's departure shattered Rumi's world. The sun had been extinguished from his sky. The pain was not just emotional, it was a physical agony, a fire in his chest, a hollowness that consumed him. The man who had been the epitome of scholarly composure and dignity was now utterly undone by grief. He shut himself away, refusing to see anyone. He paced his room like a caged lion, his heart crying out for his lost friend, his spiritual twin. The city of Konya, which had resented Shams's presence, was now faced with the devastating consequences of his absence. They had their scholar back, but he was a hollow shell. He would not teach, he would not preach, he would only weep and call out the name of Shams. And it was in this crucible of excruciating loss and longing that the poet was truly born. Before Shams, Rumi's words were carefully constructed, products of his brilliant mind. Now, words began to pour out of him from a different source entirely, from the raw, open wound in his heart. This was not poetry as a craft, it was poetry as a primal scream, as a prayer, as the desperate song of a bird searching for its mate. He began to write ghazals, lyric poems of love and longing, at a furious pace. He did not sit at a desk and compose them, they would overcome him, possess him. He would be walking, eating, or even sleeping, and the verses would flow out, his voice filled with a desperate, beautiful music. His students, realizing the terrible depth of the love they had failed to understand, would follow him, scribbling down the torrent of words before they were lost to the wind. These poems, thousands of them, would later be collected into a massive volume, which Rumi, in an act of ultimate devotion, would not title after himself, but after his lost friend, the Divan-i Shams-i Tabrizi, the collected poems of Shams of Tabriz. In these verses, the name of Shams became synonymous with the name of God, the Beloved, the Son of Truth. The search for the physical man became a metaphor for the soul's search for the divine. Asterisk. Without you, O beloved, my city is a prison. The heavens turn, but my heart is heavy. I wander through the streets, my soul in torment. Where are you, O sun? Where are you? He sent messengers out in all directions, searching for any news of the wanderer. He would question every traveler who came to Konya from the east. Have you seen a man with eyes like burning coals? Have you seen the son of Tabriz? Finally, a traveler brought news. He claimed to have seen Shams in the city of Damascus. A flicker of hope ignited in Rumi's heart. He immediately wrote letters filled with poetry and pleading, and sent his own son, Sultan Walad, a man of great humility and spiritual insight, to find Shams and beg him to return. Sultan Walad journeyed to Damascus and found the dervish. He bowed before Shams and relayed his father's message, the depth of his sorrow and his undying love. Shams, whose own heart ached with the separation, was moved by the sincerity of the son and the profound love of the father. He agreed to return. The news of their impending arrival sent a wave of ecstatic joy through Rumi. He and his followers went out of the city to meet the returning caravan. When Rumi saw the familiar figure of Shams in the distance, he dismounted and ran to him. They embraced, weeping, two halves of a single soul reunited. The sun had returned to Konya. For a time there was peace, a fragile, precious peace. Rumi was whole again, his joy illuminating the entire city. He and Shams resumed their intense spiritual communion. But the underlying tensions had not disappeared. The jealousy of some of his followers, though now hidden, still simmered beneath the surface. They had seen how Rumi's grief had nearly destroyed him, and they blamed Shams. They could not see the divine alchemy at work, they saw only a human attachment that they found disruptive and dangerous. Shams, in his profound wisdom, knew that this reunion could not last. He was a catalyst, not a permanent fixture. His role was to ignite the fire in Rumi, not to tend it forever. He knew that for Rumi to fully realize the truth, the final, ultimate separation had to occur. Rumi had to learn to find the beloved not in the external form of a friend, but within the chambers of his own heart. And so, one night in the year 1248, Shams-i Tabrizi disappeared for a second and final time. The circumstances are shrouded in mystery, a dark and sorrowful veil that history has never fully lifted. Some say he was murdered by a group of resentful disciples, including one of Rumi's own sons, a story that adds a layer of unbearable tragedy. Others believe he simply slipped away again, knowing that his physical presence was now a hindrance to Rumi's final spiritual unfolding. He vanished from the world, leaving behind no trace, only a deafening silence and a love that would echo through eternity. This time, Rumi's reaction was different. The initial wave of grief was immense, a tsunami that threatened to drown him. He searched again, his heart a raw and open wound. He even journeyed to Damascus himself, walking the streets, searching every face, hoping for a miracle. But in the midst of this desperate search, a profound realization began to dawn within him. He was looking for Shams outside of himself, but the more he searched, the more he felt Shams's presence inside him. He had been so focused on the moon that he had forgotten it was only a reflection of the sun. Shams was the mirror, but the light, the love, the reality they both shared was eternal and could never be lost. One day, in the depths of his searching in Damascus, he stopped. A new truth bloomed in his heart, a truth he expressed in a poem. Why should I seek? I am the same as he. His essence speaks through me. I have been looking for myself. He had found him, not in Damascus, but in the center of his own being. The separation was complete, but the union was now absolute and unbreakable. He understood that Shams had not left him. He had merely dissolved his outer form to become one with Rumi's own soul. He returned to Konya, not as a man grieving a lost friend, but as a man who had absorbed his friend into his very essence. The grief was not gone, but it had been transmuted, alchemized into a state of perpetual ecstatic union. The pain of separation had become the very fuel for his poetry, his music, and his dance. It was at this time that Rumi, in a moment of spontaneous spiritual overflow, began to turn, to whirl. He was walking in the marketplace of Konya, and the rhythmic sound of the goldsmiths' hammers striking the metal, thump chink, struck a chord deep within him. He heard in that rhythm the name of God, the heartbeat of the universe, and in response, his body began to move. He stretched one arm to the heavens, a channel to receive divine grace, and the other arm toward the earth, to bestow that grace upon the world. And he began to turn, and turn, and turn. His disciples watched in amazement as their master, the solemn scholar, became a spinning vortex of love. This was the birth of the Sema, the famous whirling dance of the dervishes. It was not a performance, it was a prayer in motion, a physical manifestation of the planetary dance, a way of dissolving the ego, of losing oneself in the cosmic rhythm, of becoming an empty vessel through which divine love could pour. As he turned, the poetry flowed from him, no longer tinged with the desperate grief of separation, but radiant with the joy of union. He was no longer just Jalaluddin Rumi, the scholar from Konya. He had become one with the sun, a blazing source of light and love for all the world. The pain of his loss had cracked him open, and as he would later write for all of us, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Let your own heart be still now. Feel the echo of that whirling dance within you, the gentle turning of your own spirit as it listens to the heartbeat of the universe. The greatest loss has given way to the greatest discovery. The journey into the poetry is about to begin. Rest now, in the stillness that follows the storm. The most intense period of Rumi's outer life has passed. The scholar has died, the grieving lover has been transformed, and the mystic poet, the or spiritual guide, has been fully born. The city of Konya has become accustomed to this new Rumi. They no longer see a man driven mad by grief, but a soul intoxicated with God. His presence is a constant source of wonder and grace. Imagine him now in his later years. His beard is streaked with silver, but his eyes hold the same fire that Shams first ignited, a fire now tempered with a deep, compassionate peace. He is no longer secluded. His home is open to all, scholars and shopkeepers, beggars and princes. He moves through the world with a new lightness, a new joy. He sees the face of the beloved everywhere, in the blossom of a rose, in the laughter of a child, in the silent turning of the stars. The Sema, the whirling prayer, has become a central practice for him and his growing circle of disciples. Picture a large, circular room, the floorboards worn smooth by countless turning feet. In the center, a group of musicians plays. The most important instrument is the *ne, the simple reed flute. Its sound is haunting, melancholic, yet profoundly beautiful. It is the sound of the soul's longing, a sound that pierces the heart. Rumi explained that the *ne's song is so full of sorrowful beauty because it has been cut from the reed bed where it grew, taken from its home, and had holes burned into its body. It is only through this separation and this wounding that it can be filled with the breath of the musician and produce its beautiful music. Listen to the story of the reed, he would say, how it complains of separation. For Rumi, the flute was the perfect symbol of the human soul, separated from its divine origin, longing to return, and finding its true voice only through the pain of that longing. As the music of the asterisk nave fills the air, Rumi and his dervishes begin to turn. Slowly at first, then faster and faster, their white robes billowing out like blossoms opening to the sun. They are not dizzy. They are centered in a place of deep inner stillness, a calm eye in the heart of the hurricane. They are emptying themselves of their own will, their own ego, becoming channels for a greater energy. As Rumi whirled, the universe whirled with him. He was a star, and the planets of his disciples turned in orbit around him. And from this state of ecstatic trance, the greatest poetry of his life would flow. It was during this period that a new companion entered his life, not a fiery sun like Shams, but a gentle, steady moon. His name was Husam al-Din Chilabi, one of his most devoted disciples. Husam noticed that while Rumi's disciples cherished the spontaneous verses of the asterisk divan, they needed a more systematic work to guide them, something like the epic poems of Attar or Sanai. One day, Husam approached Rumi with this request. "Master," he said, "could you not compose a book that would explain the path of love, to be a guide for those who seek?" Rumi smiled. He reached into the folds of his turban and pulled out a small piece of paper on which were written the first 18 lines of what would become his masterpiece. He had already begun. The poem started with the voice of the reed flute, its lament of separation. He handed the paper to Husam and said, "If you will agree to be the scribe, I will be the speaker." And so began the creation of the asterisk Masnavi-i Manavi asterisk, the couplets of inner meaning. For the next 12 years, this was their sacred work. It was a unique collaboration. Rumi would compose the verses aloud, often in a state of spiritual ecstasy, while walking, while dancing in the asterisk sema, even while in the bathhouse. And Husam would be there, his faithful shadow, writing furiously, capturing the river of wisdom as it flowed. The Masnavi is not a book one can read from beginning to end like a simple story. It is a vast ocean of stories, parables, jokes, philosophical insights, and Quranic commentary, all interwoven in a sprawling, magnificent tapestry. It has been called the Quran in the Persian tongue. Its purpose is not to provide easy answers, but to awaken the soul of the reader, to polish the mirror of the heart so that it can reflect the divine light. Let us now drift gently into this ocean. Let me share with you a few of the stories from the Masnavi, retold not for scholarly study, but as gentle whispers for a resting heart. Our first story is one you may have heard, but listen to it now with a sleepy ear. It is the story of the asterisk elephant in the dark. Asterisk. In a certain town, a circus master brought an elephant, an animal the townspeople had never seen before. He kept it in a large, dark barn and charged people a small fee to go inside and experience this wondrous creature. Because the barn was pitch black, the people could not see the elephant. They could only feel it. The first person went in and reached out in the darkness. His hand touched the elephant's long, thick trunk. "Ah!" he exclaimed when he came out. "It is a marvelous thing, this elephant. It is like a giant, flexible water pipe." A second person entered the dark barn. She happened to touch one of the elephant's large, sharp tusks. "How strange," she reported to the crowd. "The elephant is not like a pipe at all. It is hard and smooth and sharp, like a great spear." A third person went in and bumped against the elephant's massive, sturdy leg. "You are both mistaken," he said, emerging from the barn. "This creature is mighty and firm, like a living pillar of a temple." A fourth person, a woman, reached up and her hand brushed against the elephant's enormous, leathery ear. "It is nothing like a pillar or a spear," she said. "It is wide and thin and moves back and forth, like a great fan." And so it went. The one who touched its broadside said it was like a wall. The one who felt its tail insisted it was like a rope. A heated argument broke out among the townspeople. Each was absolutely convinced that their own limited experience represented the whole truth. They called each other fools and liars, their voices rising in anger and confusion, each one clinging to their own small piece of the puzzle. Rumi ends the story with a gentle sigh. If only, he says, someone had carried a candle into the dark room. With just a little light, they would all have seen the elephant in its entirety. They would have seen that each person was telling a part of the truth, but no one had the whole truth. They would have seen how the pipe and the spear and the pillar and the fan all belonged to the one magnificent creature. The darkness, Rumi tells us, is our own limited perception. We grasp one small part of the great mystery of God, of reality, and we mistake it for the whole. We argue and fight, defending our little piece of the truth, forgetting that the reality is infinitely vaster than our senses can comprehend. The candle is the light of spiritual insight, the divine love that illuminates the whole and shows us the unity behind all the apparent differences. Let this story be a gentle reminder as you drift toward sleep, to hold your own certainties lightly, to remember that what you perceive is only a small part of a magnificent, mysterious whole. There is no need to argue. There is only a need for more light. And that light is found not in the clamor of the world, but in the quiet stillness of the heart. Breathe in peace. Breathe out conflict. The elephant is vast, and the darkness is deep, but a single candle of love is all that is needed to see the truth. Let the story of the elephant settle within you, a soft reminder of the vastness of truth. Now, let us drift to another tale from the great ocean of the Masnavi. This is a story about the nature of prayer and the sincerity of love. It is the story of Moses and the shepherd. Kolesk. One day, the great prophet Moses was walking through the desert when he overheard a simple shepherd speaking to God. The shepherd was not praying with formal words or elegant phrases. He was speaking from his heart, with a raw and rustic love. "Oh, my dearest God," the shepherd cried out, his face turned to the sky. "Where are you? If only I could find you, I would be your servant forever. I would mend your sandals and comb your hair. I would wash your clothes and pick the lice from them. I would bring you a fresh glass of milk from my best goat every morning. When you were sick, I would care for you and kiss your hands and feet. Oh, my beloved, all my goats are yours. Where are you?" Moses, the great prophet, the lawgiver, was horrified. He strode up to the shepherd, his face a mask of righteous anger. "You foolish man," he thundered. "What blasphemy is this? Who are you speaking to? God is the creator of the heavens and the earth. He has no body. He does not wear sandals or have hair to be combed. He does not get sick. Your words are an insult, an abomination. You have polluted the faith with your ignorance. You must repent at once." The poor shepherd was terrified. He trembled before the awesome authority of the prophet. He was filled with shame and confusion. He had only been speaking the language of his love, the only language he knew. He tore his clothes and threw dust on his head in despair. He believed he had committed a terrible sin. He turned and fled into the desert, weeping bitterly, his heart broken. But as Moses stood there, satisfied that he had corrected a great error and defended the purity of faith, a voice came to him from the heavens. It was the voice of God. And the voice was not pleased. "Moses," God said, and the voice was filled with a gentle rebuke. "Why have you driven my servant away from me? I sent you to unite my people with me, not to drive them apart. You have separated the lover from the beloved. I have given to each person a unique way of being, a unique language of the heart. What is poison for you may be honey for another. What is wrong in your eyes may be right in his. I am not concerned with the outer words, the polished phrases. I look not at the tongue, but at the heart. I want the fire of love, the burning of the soul. It does not matter if the words are improper. Light a fire of love in your soul, Moses, and burn away all thoughts and expressions. The religion of love is separate from all other religions. For lovers, the only religion and creed is God." Moses was humbled to his very core. He realized his mistake. In his zeal to protect the form of religion, he had betrayed its spirit. He had judged the shepherd's simple, loving heart by the standards of his own sophisticated theology. He ran out into the desert, searching for the shepherd, calling his name. When he finally found him, he spoke with great humility. "Forgive me," Moses said. "God has revealed to me that there are no rules for those who love. Speak to God in any way your heart desires. Your seeming blasphemy was the purest faith. Your simple words reached the heavens more truly than 1,000 proper prayers. The shepherd's heart was healed, and Moses learned a profound lesson that day, that God is vast enough to embrace all forms of devotion, that the sincerity of a loving heart is more precious than all the doctrines and dogmas in the world. So as you lie here, on the edge of sleep, know that you do not need perfect words to speak to the mystery that surrounds you. You do not need a complex philosophy. All that is needed is a sincere heart. A simple, loving whisper from the soul is a sound that shakes the heavens. Let go of any feeling that you are not good enough or wise enough. The beloved is not looking for perfection. The beloved is looking for you, just as you are, in the simple, honest language of your own heart. Now, let us turn to a shorter, more intimate parable. This one is about the painful but necessary process of transformation. It is the story of the chickpea in the pot. Imagine a large pot of water boiling over a fire. A woman throws a handful of chickpeas into the churning water. As the heat increases, the chickpeas begin to leap and jump in the pot, rising to the surface and crying out. One particularly articulate chickpea cries, "Oh, mistress, why do you do this to us? You bought us from the market, you brought us home. Why are you boiling us in this fire?" The cook, a wise woman, takes a long wooden ladle and pushes the chickpea back down into the water. "Keep boiling, my little friend," she says gently. "Do not try to jump away from the fire. This is not a punishment. I am not boiling you because I hate you. I am boiling you so that you may become delicious and nourishing, so that you may be transformed from a hard, inedible pebble into a savory meal, so that you may become one with the spices and the rice and give strength to a human soul." The chickpea cries out again, "But this hurts. This fire is agony." "I know," says the cook, her voice full of compassion. "You were once green and fresh, drinking water from the garden of God. That was one kind of life. Now you must endure this fire to find a new life, a higher purpose. This boiling is the breath of God's love, transforming you." So the chickpea endures the boiling, the churning, the seeming torment. It surrenders to the process. It is cooked through and through, becoming soft and savory. It is then mixed with rice and spices, becoming part of a delicious pilaf, and is eaten by a human being, becoming part of their life, their energy, their very consciousness. It has been elevated, transformed, its purpose fulfilled through the painful trial by fire and water. Rumi tells us that we are like that chickpea. We find ourselves in the boiling pot of life, in the midst of suffering, hardship, and pain, and we cry out, "God, why are you doing this to me?" We try to leap out of the pot, to escape the pain, but the pain, Rumi suggests, is the very instrument of our transformation. It is the fire of divine love, cooking us, softening our hard egos, breaking down our resistance, making us ready to be assimilated into a greater reality. The difficulties we face are not punishments, but a form of grace, a divine alchemy designed to make us more flavorful, more nourishing, more truly human. So as you drift and dream, if there is any pain or hardship you are holding, try to see it through the eyes of this story. Imagine it not as a cruel fire, but as a transformative warmth, softening your hard edges, making you more compassionate, more wise, more ready to be united with the great feast of life. Surrender to the process. Trust the wisdom of the cook. The pain is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of your most delicious transformation. Breathe in, surrender. Breathe out, resistance. You are being prepared for a beautiful purpose. The night is deep and quiet. Let the story settle in you like seeds in fertile ground. We have journeyed through Rumi's life, his profound loss, and his ecstatic transformation. We have dipped our hands into the ocean of his Masnavi. Now, let us turn our attention to the poems of the Divan, the verses that poured from him in the white heat of love and longing for Shams. These are not so much stories as they are windows into the heart of a mystic. They are whispers of a reality that lies just beyond the veil of our ordinary perception. As Rumi whirled in the Sema, he would enter a state of fana, the mystical annihilation of the self. The small, personal I, the ego with its worries, its pride, its fears, would dissolve like a drop of salt in the ocean. In that state, there was no longer Rumi the man, but only the beloved, the vast ocean of being, experiencing itself. The poems that emerged from this state are not about love. They are the voice of love itself. Let these words wash over you, not as ideas to be analyzed, but as a gentle music for the soul. Imagine Rumi turning, his eyes closed, his heart open. A verse falls from his lips. Asterisk, I died as a mineral and became a plant. Asterisk, I died as plant and rose to animal. Asterisk, I died as animal, and I was man. Why should I fear? When was I ever less by dying? Yet once more I shall die as man, to soar with angels blessed. But even from angelhood asterisk, I must pass on. All except God doth perish. When I have sacrificed my angel soul asterisk, I shall become what no mind ever conceived. Oh, let me not exist. For non-existence, to him we shall return. Asterisk, feel the immense peaceful current of this vision. It is a journey of cosmic evolution, a spiral of becoming. There is no fear of death, for death is not an end but a promotion, a shedding of a limited form to embrace a vaster one. He is telling us that our true identity is not this fleeting personality, this temporary body. We are part of a grand, eternal process of becoming, a journey back to the source from which we came. Let this thought dissolve any fear of ending. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. Now listen to another whisper from the heart of the mystic. This is about the nature of the tavern, a recurring symbol in Sufi poetry. The tavern is not a place of drunkenness with wine, but a place of spiritual intoxication, the gathering place of lovers of God, where the rules of conventional religion are left at the door. Asterisk. Today, like every other day, we are in ruins. Do not leap from our path, for we are the torrent. We are not of this world or the next. We are of no country, no religion, no race. We have fallen from the wheel of time. My place is the placeless. My trace is the traceless. Come to the tavern of ruin, my friend. Here, you can drink the wine of the spirit, asterisk, and lose yourself in the beloved's gaze. This is a call to freedom. A call to step outside the small boxes we put ourselves in, boxes of nationality, creed, and social identity. The path of love, Rumi says, leads to a place beyond all these divisions, a placeless place, where the soul is naked and free. The tavern of ruin is the state where the ego is ruined, where our carefully constructed self-image is shattered, and in that ruin we find our true, boundless self. It is a gentle invitation to let go of who you think you are, in order to discover who you truly are. Breathe in freedom. Breathe out all the labels and definitions that confine you. And what is the destination of this journey? It is not a place, but a state of being. It is the realization of unity, of Tawheed, the central tenet of Sufism. The understanding that, in reality, there is only one being, one consciousness, one love, manifesting in a million different forms. Listen to how Rumi describes this state of union, often using the metaphor of the lover and the beloved becoming one. Asterisk. The lover is a king. The two worlds are his kingdom. The beloved is the sweetness of his soul. When the lover is lost in the beloved, asterisk, the lover is the beloved, and the beloved is the lover. I have become you, and you have become me. I am the body, you are the soul. Let no one say hereafter that I am one and you are another. And in another place, a more playful, intimate verse, asterisk, a lover knocked at the beloved's door. 60c, a voice from within asked, who is there? Asterisk, the lover answered, it is I. Asterisk, the voice replied, this house will not hold me and thee. Asterisk, and the door remained shut. The lover went away and wandered in the desert, fasting and praying for a whole year. He returned and knocked again at the door. The voice from within asked again, who is there? Asterisk, this time, the lover replied, it is thou, asterisk, and the door swung open. Let this simple story sink deep into your heart. The path to union requires the dissolving of the I. As long as there is a separate self, a me knocking at the door to the beloved's presence remains closed. The final key is the realization that there is no separation. It is all thou. The wave realizing it is, and always has been, the ocean. As you lie on the threshold of sleep, perhaps you can feel this truth: the breath that breathes you is not your own. The life that animates you is the life of the universe. The love that you feel in your deepest moments is a ripple from an infinite ocean of love. There is no need to knock. The door has been open all along. You are already inside the house. Let these poetic whispers be a lullaby for you. They are not meant to be fully understood by the mind, they are meant to be felt by the heart. They are pointers to a mystery, signposts on a journey inward. Asterisk. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Asterisk. Stop acting so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion. Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. Asterisk. There is a voice that doesn't use words. Listen. Let these words be your companions as you drift deeper and deeper into a state of profound peace and rest. The journey with Rumi is nearing its gentle conclusion. The years passed in Konya like a slow, beautiful poem. Rumi, the man they now called Maulana, our master, continued to teach, to whirl, to compose his verses. He was a living embodiment of the love he spoke of. His presence was a balm, his words a river that quenched the thirst of seeking souls. The Masnavi grew, volume by volume, a testament to the tireless collaboration between him and his beloved scribe, Hussam. He was no longer the tormented lover searching for a lost friend. He had become a calm and radiant sun in his own right, warming all who came into his orbit. He had fully integrated the lesson of Shams. The beloved was not a person to be possessed, but a presence to be lived. He had found the sun within. His teachings were simple and profound, cutting through the complexities of doctrine to the heart of the matter. When asked to summarize his life, he said, asterisk, I was raw, I was cooked, I was burned. This was the arc of his transformation, from the raw, uncooked scholar to the one cooked in the fire of his relationship with Shams, to the one utterly burned and consumed by the fire of divine love, leaving nothing behind but the beloved himself. As he grew older, his body became frail, but his spirit grew ever more luminous. He knew that the final journey, the one he had written about with such longing and fearlessness, was approaching. For him, death was not a fearsome end. He called it his urs, his wedding night, the night the lover is finally and completely united with the beloved. When he fell ill, the entire city of Konya was plunged into sorrow. The most prominent doctors came to his bedside, but he smiled at them gently. You wish to cure my body, he said, but the real sickness is the cage of the body itself. I long to be free of this cage. He told his friends and family not to mourn for him. Asterisk, when you see my coffin being carried, do not weep. He is gone. He is gone. Asterisk, death is a coming together. The tomb looks like a prison, but it is the release of the soul. Which seed, when planted in the earth, did not grow? Why do you doubt the seed of a human being? On a cold winter evening, the 17th of December, in the year 1273, as the sun set over the plains of Anatolia, Jalaluddin Rumi closed his eyes on this world. His passing was not a moment of sadness, but of serene triumph. His last breaths were whispers of love, his soul returning to the ocean of light from which it had come. His funeral was an event unlike any other. It was not a somber procession, but a celebration. People from all faiths and all walks of life, Muslims, Christians, Jews, merchants, scholars, and the poor, all came to honor the man who had taught them that the religion of love was open to all. They carried his coffin through the streets of Konya, not with tears of grief, but with music, with the chanting of his poetry, and with the soft, mournful song of the asterisk nay. It was a true wedding procession, escorting the lover home to the beloved. And so, our story comes to a gentle close. But the story of Rumi does not truly end. It is a story that continues to be told not just in books, but in the hearts of all who hear his call. His words have traveled across centuries and continents, a timeless river of wisdom that continues to nourish thirsty souls. He left us a treasure map, a guide back to the forgotten country of our own heart. He reminds us that within each of us, there is a capacity for a love so vast it can dissolve all fear and separation. He teaches us that our wounds are sacred gateways, that our longing is a holy compass, and that our true nature is not small and separate, but boundless and divine. As you lie here now, completely at peace, ready for a deep and restorative sleep, let the final, gentle message of Rumi be your lullaby. Let go of all your striving. Let go of all your seeking. The treasure you are looking for is not in some distant land or future time. It is here, now. It is in the gentle rhythm of your own breath. It is in the silent, steady beating of your own heart. You are a guest in this world. Treat it kindly. You are a note in a cosmic symphony. Play your part with love. You are a secret that God is telling. Listen, close your eyes, and see the inner sky, vast and filled with a soft, gentle light. There is a tavern there, in the center of your own being. The wine of peace is poured freely. The music of silence is always playing. The beloved is waiting there, has always been waiting there. Not as a stranger, but as your own truest self. There is nothing to do, nothing to achieve. Simply be, simply rest. Rest in the arms of the great mystery. Float on the ocean of love. You are safe. You are whole. You are home. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. And may your dreams be filled with the scent of the celestial rose, the music of the turning spheres, and the silent, loving wisdom of Rumi. Good night.